Yeah, so my name is Gianluca Turcatel, and I'm going to walk you through my story of transitioning from academia to industry. And this is the agenda for today. I'm going to explain to you what I was doing in academia as a PhD. Um, I'm going to talk to you why I decided to transition to data science and how I did the transition. And finally, I'm going to share some tips, takeaways, some tricks I learned by transitioning out of academia. So, a quick background about myself. I have a master in biotech. I'm actually probably you can guess from my accent. I'm not from America. I'm from Italy. So I got my master back in Italy long time ago. And back then I was working typical molecular biology techniques like microarray analysis, DNA cloning, cell culture, and so on, so on. Then I got a PhD in molecular biology, and I did my PhD here in US. And back then I was working on microRNAs. When I started my PhD, microRNAs were the sexiest topic, and everyone was working on that. So why not also, me working on the same topic? And I took a short break from academia around 2016 when I did this PPM. PPM stands for post professional postdoc master, and it was a sort of mini MBA for people with a PhD willing to leave academia and go into industry. So I decided to take this course. It was 2 semesters, and I learned a lot of business like skills like management, marketing, accounting, finance, and so on. Right after finishing my PPM, I became a professor at USC. And I was a professor for almost 4 years. I was doing research, online development, COPD, emphysema. And around that time, I started using some data science-like tools. So I started being exposed to R and HPC. When you deal with gene expression data, which are pretty big data sets, we use high performance computing. So I learned how to use that at USC, and I learned how to use some R. And then in 2000, and then later, after 4 years of being a professor, I transitioned to industry. I left academia as a data scientist, and that happened around 2021. So I didn't decide to leave academia. Let me say, it didn't happen overnight. It was actually a slow process. I had the first thoughts around 2019. I was on a conference, a military conference that my boss paid me to go. And right after the conference, I started learning Python on my own. I thought it was really cool. I realized that I like coding. In 2020, COVID came. Everyone was forced to stay home. At the same time, my funding were ending in 2000. They were supposed to end in 2021, and my big project, which is a military device I was building with some colleagues at USC, was shut down. So I decided to make the switch, and I started learning some basic data science tools using Udemy and looking at YouTube tutorials. But I thought that was not it's not enough. Plus, for reasons I'm going to share later, I decided to join a formal training, and I signed up for this online bootcamp. And I started my bootcamp in May 2020. I think I finished it in November, December 2020, or around that time. And then I was able to land my first job in data science in 2021. So why did I do the bootcamp? So many reasons. First of all, I felt like isolated. I was totally, I was a professor back then. I had no connection with the data science environment. So I felt like I was connected to no one. So I decided to join a bootcamp so I can make connection with mentors, students, and their network. I was not sure what I was supposed to learn. So a bootcamp gave me a nice framework of the skills and tools that I need to acquire in order to become a data scientist. Accountability. I mean, everyone is different. Sometimes I tend to be lazy, and paying for something was an incentive for me to do it properly and to not waste time. So I did it to force myself to be on top of things. I like the idea to have a mentors who could teach me and help me throughout the bootcamp, and also networking that's connected with the isolation bullet point. I wanted to connect to other students, to other data scientists through the bootcamp. So I enlisted here the pros and the cons of the bootcamp. The bootcamp I took. I like they provide a framework for the end-to-end data science projects. Getting the data, clean up the data, train the models, spitting out the most important features, and organizing a presentation. I like that everything was properly laid out for me. I love the fact that we have a weekly and monthly deadlines, so I was accountable. I was forced to do my assignments on time. I really enjoyed having mentors, both technical and career mentors. The technical mentors were helping me with code reviews, organizing the projects, understanding the results, and so on. And the career mentor was helping me with reviewing my resume, uh, uh, preparing the LinkedIn profile, doing mock interviews, and developing some network skills. And also, I really enjoyed the network with other students. Every week, um, we had the weekly meetings with other students. So we're like exchanging experiences and sharing feedback. The two shortcomings about the bootcamp were that the code was not updated too much, to be honest. Very often the libraries were outdated. There were bugs in the code, and that's okay probably if you have experience. If you have done data science for a while, you just fix the bug. But at the beginning, it was a little bit annoying. I was supposed to learn not to fix the code for other people. And then I realized that some key concepts and tools were missing. For instance, I took the bootcamp in 2020. There were no reference to transformers, and I thought it was a big miss there. So regarding my experience, to my personal key takeaways, transitioning from academia to industry was not easy. For me, I had literally no experience in data science except the bootcamp and everything else that I learned through the bootcamp and after the bootcamp. So the transition was not easy at all. It was very competitive, and I realized that I did lack experience with interview. I was not able to interview with. I never had experience interviewing before 2021. I never interviewed with big companies. I had an idea. I have no idea how to respond to questions, how to answer questions, and what to expect. My network was very limited. And of course, I realized that even though through the bootcamp, there was some gap in knowledge and skills that I had to fill. The solutions for some of those hurdles, I pick a niche. So I was a professor in biology, so I had to decide to stay in my field. So pharma biotech, that was the closest thing to biology, and that staying in that field would facilitate the transition for myself. When I did start interview with companies, I applied first to those companies that are labeled like tier 3, means that I didn't care about getting job there. I was just wanted to to get some experience interviewing. And honestly, they were very embarrassing interviewing. It was very embarrassing experiences. I learned how to interview properly through embarrassing experiences. I expanded my network through LinkedIn. I joined a lot of meetups. I joined a lot of groups, data science groups, so I can expand my network. And then I never stopped the learning. I always still do. Look at YouTube. Every time there's something new, I try to learn it. I always read publication whenever chance. Udemy is another good source of tutorials. Twitter, I also follow Twitter a lot just to stay up to pace. So this at the end of the conversation. I just want to add a few tips that I don't have a slide for them. Few tips that I have collected through the years, through my experience with my colleagues, other data scientists, recruiters I talk to, on how to transition to data science, to facilitate the transition to data science. There are hard skills that you need to master. Obviously, we know programming, either Python or R. I would say most of the companies are using Python. R is used only if you do some niche things, like for instance, causal discovery, causal inference is probably all those tools are written in R. So if you are interested in causal discovery, causal modeling, R is the programming language that you wanted to learn. Obviously, you need to know about machine learning frameworks, TensorFlow, PyTorch, scikit-learn, and so on. And for learning, I mean, learning very well, like learn the details of the algorithm as well. In interviewing candidates, I often see that candidates they know how to use it. They know how to use the fit method, the transform method, etc., etc. But if you ask details about maybe the math behind it, or very often they don't know that. So my suggestion is if you have on your resume a tool, a data science tool, let's say XGBoost, it's better if you know that technique in detail because people are going to ask you a lot of details about it. When you interview, it's very important to know how to send a message properly. So be able to visualize the data with the right chart, with the right graphics is critical. Very often the charts I've seen in the past are too busy, too complicated. It's hard to understand what the message is. So learn how to master this kind of skill is very important. Communication, especially presentation. I met a lot of talented data scientists. They cannot present well. So they know, for instance, the math, they know the techniques, everything, but when they present the data to stakeholders, other people, it's very hard to follow what's going on. And that if you don't have a good communication, presentation skills, you might fail at interviews. Long time ago, I was reaching out to people on LinkedIn. I remember that one of the person I was chatting with, it was telling me that it's very important for the hiring manager to feel like you're a person who can get along with other people. So you've got good team player. And so be able to kind of give the vibe to the hiring manager, to the recruiter is very important. And you can do that by asking the right questions about how you keep your team cohesive, how you keep your team engaged, how do you solve conflicts. Those kind of questions will tell the hiring manager and the recruiter that you're a good team player. You're okay working with a lot of people and you know how to solve conflicts. And data science projects usually require a lot of individuals to be carried out. So that's a very important thing to show. When I did a bootcamp many years ago, there was nothing about cloud computing. I didn't know anything about AWS. And I realized that is something that you want to know. So know how to use some cloud computing frameworks, AWS, Azure, that's important. the past 1 year has become very critical knowing LLMs and Gen AI. I'm pretty sure everyone here on the call is aware of that. So um, that's is a skill you want to pick up. And then depending on the industry, you wanted to know the specific industry requirements or tools or skills. For instance, I work in big pharma. If you want to apply to big pharma companies, knowing about healthcare, basic biology, medicine, that will help you a lot to get a position in pharma. If you're interested in finance, knowing about stocks, financial statements, uh, and options and so on will significantly increase your probability of success. One thing I want to add is, again, through my experience on interacting with other data scientists, interviewing people, is I noticed very often resumes are not tailored for the specific job description. Just people sometimes use the same resume for totally different job applications, and that's something that, as a hiring manager, I see that, and this is a red flag. I suggest everyone to expand your network. So work and keep your network expanding, connecting with a recruiter, connecting with hiring manager. Constant learning, something that I explained earlier, I did right after a bootcamp, I do all the time, and is a must thing to do. Data science is a very fast evolving environment. It change every 6 months. There's something new. I remember when I joined the company working with. Back then, what was sexy was the hype was geometric AI, and then a few months later was knowledge graph, and now we have LLM and Gen AI. So every 8 months or so, there's something new that takes the stage in data science. So being learning continuously, be on aware of the new trends and the new development in the field is critical. One thing that I want to add on something that I said earlier about if you're interested in a specific field, you need to master the techniques or the tools that field requires. I made an example of pharma and in finance, and that can be also a strategy to increase the chance to get hired. You pick a niche rather than being an expert on everything. Very often, it's better to be an expert to one niche and showcase that you're an expert on that, and to showcase that you can achieve the showcase in different ways through Medium publication, through sharing your accomplishment through using LinkedIn or LinkedIn, and the Medium after you pick the niche you're interested in. And that's I noticed that the people that are expert in a specific niche have a higher chance to get hired and make the transition. That would be my last comment I want to add. I will open the floor for questions. If any one of you has